Meeting. The agenda only has a couple of points. The first is personnel, and I think we have one person that is going to be doing a presentation for the personnel hearing. After that, we have the action, and then we will go through the part to adjourn. And this is very pointed tonight to a very specific reason. The employees of Pendleton County Schools are the only reason that we can teach the students and take care of them. The students are the most important people, but we absolutely have to have the employees to be able to help them out and to do anything. So this is focused on the hearing tonight. So with that, we will move down to personnel, and we have a personnel hearing for an individual who received a RIF notice.
Jason, will you start?
Yeah. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So obviously we're in what we all refer to as personnel season. You know, at different times, different counties have their personnel hearings and recommendations that are being made. Your neighbors in, Randolph County might have 3 days worth of hearings with all of the various moves that you see that they may be recommending. But for Pendleton County, tonight's kind of that night, at least for a number of recommendations. And one employee has asked for a hearing. And obviously, I'm going to assume that employee is there tonight. I think a number of other individuals. The first thing we have to do is just to make sure and ask the employee, and that's Ms. Worley, if she wants what we call kind of an open or closed hearing, and maybe have her up there near a microphone to be able to present and talk with the board as we go through this process, if that's okay.
Do you want open or closed?
Open is fine.
Okay.
Open is fine.
Okay. Perfect. So, again, an open hearing which the employee has the absolute right for. And I apologize, I'm not there in person. I appreciate the ability to appear remotely. It allows us to be a little bit more economical under certain circumstances. But Mr. President, I'm going to assume we've got all 5 board members present. Is that accurate?
We
Yes.
do.
And this personnel hearing will be recorded. I assume that's taking place, correct?
It is.
And the board has a number of personnel items that will be presented to it tonight on the agenda. Again, one individual has asked for a hearing. And typically the way the process works is, I'm here to help facilitate. I'll kind of guide the board through what the recommendation is from administration, to give administration an opportunity to kind of address the board as to the reason for the recommendation that's being made as it relates to Ms. Worley. And then we give her an opportunity to speak and address the board as it relates to her being in opposition to the recommendation. Does that make sense to this point with everyone?
Yes.
And obviously, I always like to start off with, I've not met this particular employee. Her name's Ms. Worley. I believe she does nothing but great things for our school system. Obviously, the board members may or may not know what it is that she does, but from a background standpoint, let me just provide a little bit of a summary. So Ms. Worley holds 2 extracurricular contracts or positions with the school system. Extracurricular in nature, not half-time or full-time, but she's in 2 extracurricular positions. Both of those positions are at Franklin Elementary School. And again, I mentioned 2. So if you've got a pen and paper there as board members, give consideration to thinking about number 1, the extracurricular contract is referred to as media specialist. The other extracurricular contract that we refer to is school-based parent communities activities coordinator. So again, 2 extracurricular contracts that generally have limits on the number of hours that the individual can work per week, both at Franklin Elementary School. Again, one media specialist and the other school-based parent community activities coordinator. Now, the superintendent's making a recommendation to the school board that there be a RIF, that being a reduction in force as relates to this particular employee's media specialist extracurricular position. And when we say a RIF, that means that The superintendent's recommending the abolishment of that particular contract. That doesn't mean, again, I go back to the superintendent, Ms. Tritipo can address this shortly, is this has nothing to do with the individual, the value the individual brings to our school system. Mr. President, you mentioned the value of all of our employees. Again, this is not personal in nature, and I've heard nothing but great things from the administration relates to Ms. Worley, but we have to make decisions that serve the best interests of our school systems and to align our resources in a way that continue to provide for our students. As it relates to this particular scenario, as I understand it, the superintendent will address the board, there be a recommendation for the abolishment of the media specialist contract position. Ms. Worley would continue under her school-based parent community activities coordinator assignment. I think the superintendent addressed that those services may in fact expand. We're not trying to take away anything from an employee. All of us have to make a living, whether it's a full-time nature, half-time nature, extracurricular nature. So we're not unsensitive to the concern and maybe the concern of the employee that, wow, you're taking it away from me and that's going to impact me. The superintendent can address how, we're hopeful that that isn't the case. But again, the employee got appropriate notice under the law as it relates to the abolishment of the extracurricular position. Even though it is extracurricular, we still have to go through these procedures. Procedures would go through if it was a full-time position, half-time position. With extracurricular, we do the same. And I would ask that the superintendent, Ms. Tritipo, kind of give an explanation to the board as it relates to the reasons for the recommendation that's being presented in the notice that was given to Ms. Worley. Obviously, as we go through that, if I have questions, I may ask those administration, the board to do it as well, and then give Ms. Worley an opportunity to address the board.
Do you want me to go or do you? Okay, so the position as the media specialist is on the list because it was not correctly posted for what the purpose is. We do feel that the value of the parent coordinator is very important and would like to continue that and maybe even expand it, as Mr. Long has mentioned. But the position of a media specialist is a different type of position. It's one that would require a certification, and it's one that would be on a different kind of contract. So this was mistakenly posted last year and filled, and so we're just trying to correct this.
And I think, Ms. Ever, one of the things that if I'm a parent, and as I understand there's probably several folks in that room, if I'm a board member, I think all of us always want to do what's in the best interest of our students. And if I'm at Franklin Elementary School and I know the value that this individual has to our school system, most people probably don't recognize the different contracts that she has, but can you articulate in terms of how we will service and what the service will kind of look like that was being provided from the media specialist, if that makes sense? Like, how is the need going to be satisfied so that, our students continue to get, the top-notch services in whatever role that needs to be created in that void?
So the position that Ms. Worley had that was posted in 2018 and that she's held since that time, the way it's described has it's a federal program-based position, but it also has all other duties assigned by the principal, and so therefore the duties that were in the media specialist can fall under that one contract, and so everything that she's doing can stay the same. And I do know that she would like to have the opportunity to share what she is doing, because she has a lot that she's doing for sure, so, and is greatly appreciated.
And Ms. Emerson, like, again, stuff is need employment or some sort of income, among other things. If you look at what Ms. Worley does this school year, and let's just say we're in the 25-26 school year, next year's the 26-27 school year, what, if any, decline in the amount of work would there be, if any? I think that, as a board member, they want to recognize that. This may be a way that we're streamlining and correcting things, but at the same time, what's the impact to the employee, which we all understand is important to all of us.
There may be some reduced hours, but not significant.
And your anticipated plan is to ensure to try to make as least of an impact to both the individual and the students for
Correct.
what Ms. Worley does to the school system.
Correct. Right now, her contract is averaging 20 hours a week, and we've looked at it, and we've met with her and discussed making it beyond just the 36 weeks, because we were first looking at it as 36 weeks because there's 4 9-weeks in a school year, but there is work to be done in the summer, and there's work sometimes to do at different times. She had requested this year not to do it per week, but to do so many hours per year, because that gives her more flexibility. I would be glad to revise the contract to do that and to help her have more flexibility. For instance, the last week of January, if we do per week, we had no school whatsoever that week, she would have 0 hours. And the way the contract was written, there would be no way to have flexibility for that. So it would be a difference of, well, I'm not sure, because we haven't really determined, like, for sure what we would do to change that, but we definitely do not want to lose her services. So we would need to look at her parent coordinator contract and see how we could come to an agreement to make sure that she has time to get those duties completed. And that will be on the agenda in March for next year's calendar. So this doesn't change anything for this year, and we'll be looking at contracts in the March board meeting, and we would have a recommendation for a change at that time.
And you mentioned you talked to Ms. Worley, and I know you all have, and all those conversations, and I always like for board members to recognize and the community to recognize, those have all been positive. It's nice to have employees who are professional, respectful, and the fact that she wants to be heard by the board is her absolute right, and it's nice to see folks come in and express that as well, so none of this is personal in nature.
Definitely not.
Yeah. It's just the time of the year we're in, it's personnel season, and needing to make appropriate adjustments to again, continue to be more thorough and efficient. That's what our constitutional obligation is. But Mr. President, the board members having specific questions of administration, now would be that time. Otherwise, Ms. Worley will have an opportunity to kind of share with the board whatever it is that she would like to share with the school system.
So, yeah, Nicole, you say that she will have enough time to do everything that she's doing now with
Yes.
this change in jobs.
Yeah, we'll change the parent coordinator contract so that she would have sufficient amount
And
of
she'll
time.
be allowed to do everything she's doing now.
She should be able to, yes.
And the contract will be flexible as far as the
Right.
hours.
Mhm. Yes.
And it will be more than 36 weeks? Yes.
It will, I'll have to look at that, but I think the way that we're looking at the hours is not like per week, but how many hours per year. So we want to look at that and make sure, because it's going to be funded from 2 different funding sources. One will be the federal program, and we have to make sure that that stays in line for that budget, and then what the county will pick up on the other area.
Other questions? I think that concludes our board member questions.
Okay, Ms. Rowe?
And if Ms. Worley can hear me, this is kind of her opportunity. I think if she's there close to the board, to kind of share with the board and what she had in mind as it relates to the recommendation.
Yep, she's ready.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for waiting.
First, I'm going to give you some papers, if that's okay. This first one, if you take it and pass it down, that's a
Thank you.
letter from the Franklin Elementary School Association. This next one is the responsibilities. I made a list of what I do. And then these next 2 papers have numbers from the library, they're library reports. This first one is from today, the second one is from April 23rd, 2019, just to show you what the collection and numbers in the library look like now versus, let me actually take one of these so I have it.
Absolutely.
Lisa, I have a copy. There's one more copy here for you.
I appreciate you guys hearing me tonight.
Do you need this?
I do understand like the financial pressures and changes are not just here, I know every school is facing them. But I also wanted you guys to know and understand what I do. With what Nicole has proposed, I figured out it's about 2 hours less a week, which doesn't sound like a lot. It's about 76 hours in the year. But if you look at all of the things I do, it is small, but that's things that I will have to take off of, like maybe it's the art show that I do that I have to take off of my plate because that's a lot of hours. But I wanted to tell you guys like what I do and why it matters. For many students, the school library is their primary access to books. The early elementary years are critical for developing reading skills, and consistent library support helps build strong academic foundations. Franklin Elementary School is more than double the size of the other 2 elementary schools in our county, and with a population this large, one-on-one opportunities are harder to come by, yet more important than ever. Even in a 10-hour-a-week role, I help students find books in their level, guide reluctant readers, and provide support that can be difficult for classroom teachers to provide in a large setting. These small moments build confidence, increase reading engagement, and help students develop positive relationships with the school and reading. I've worked at Franklin Elementary School since my daughter was in preschool. She's in 8th grade now, and in the last 8 years I've served as parent coordinator. In the last 2, they've added the media specialist part. When I began, I was just simply checking books in and out, but I saw needs and I acted. Our nonfiction section was outdated and in terrible, terrible condition. I learned proper weeding practices and removed decade-old inaccurate materials. I learned how to repair books to make our collections last longer because books get beat up in school. And I was really surprised when I took out the older books at how much the nonfiction circulation increased. They really started using that section of the library that they were not using before because they could go and find things that were relevant to them. Before I stepped in, the library had not completed a full inventory in over 10 years, and now it is completed fairly regularly. At least every other year I try to do an inventory. This recovers lost materials that gets mixed in the wrong place on the shelf and helps maintain an accurate collection. Last year for our library budget, the board office, and I don't know what the funding is, I think it's Title 7, but I'm not 100% sure, was under $900. It reduced by about $150 because of student numbers. But through Green Valley Book Fair, First Books, and Mid-America Books, I find books that are high quality but low price. I stretch the funds by shopping at those places, and I go to Goodwill and I find books because they have children's books for 10 cents a piece. And the titles that I can't get through there, I do have to spend full price on. And library books are very expensive. I don't know if you've looked for library bound books, they're $15 to $35 a piece. $900 does not go very far if you're paying $30 a book. So when I go to Goodwill, the titles that can't be added to the library or our small group collection, which is another area I worked on. It used to just be a pile of books on a shelf, and I have organized them. They're by level so the teachers can come in and get books that are for their small groups that are the right level. And I've added to that through different donations and different things, we've been able to spend a little bit of money there, and we have a very good collection, and the teachers use it all the time. Whereas they were just collecting dust before I started changing things there. I order, process, label, catalog, and prepare every new book for circulation, and that takes quite a bit of time. And many summers I've worked without pay to ensure the students have a refreshed library when they come back to school. Through these efforts, I'm able to keep new relevant books in the students' hands all year, even with the extremely limited funding. The other place we get funding for our books is through the book fair, which is our biggest fundraiser, and that this year, Miss Carol Van Duvener has been helping us with that this will be her 40th year running it. I've been shadowing her, I've learned all of the different pieces, and she plans on handing it over to me next year. That is a very intense week, because we set up, Katie's actually helped us with that, so she's
It's intense.
It's a pretty intense week. So that's a huge thing. Some of the other things that I do, I collaborate with the teachers, and I teach the students how to use our library software, which is called Follow Destiny. They can independently search for books, they can put books on hold, and discover new books. And as you know, like you were saying, where we were not in school for that full week and we've been hit or miss, so the classes aren't getting their regular time in the library, they can still place holds. And then when we get back to school, I go through, I pull the books and I take them to their classroom so they continue to have books. So if their library day isn't until Friday and they missed it last Friday because of snow, Monday morning or Tuesday, whenever we get back, they can have a hold and I can get books to them. I read regularly to preschool, kindergarten, and this year I've started some with first grade. When we get new books, sometimes they don't have AR tests. I request for tests to be made, and I have learned this year how to make tests if they don't end up making them for certain books. Like we had Miss Jenny Neal that has come to the school twice now, is a local author from Monterey. Her books didn't get AR. I was able to go in and create AR tests so the students could get credit for their reading. I maintain all of the equipment that's in the library, the Ellison dye machines, the laminator. I change the rolls. When they get jams, I have to figure out how to fix it. And I also create the yearbook. This is my 8th year. Every cover is a student collaboration. Our 6th graders each do a piece of art. I do have them if you guys are interested in looking, I brought them. Each of 6th graders do a piece of art that is then scanned in and I create the cover. This year I've taken it a step further because I'm crazy, and they drew more extra illustrations for me, and that's going to be the graphics through the yearbook. It's really looking cool. But the students, every page, like I double check, triple check all of the names because that's huge to me because my name was often misspelled. And I design it so every child feels seen. I make sure that every child has a picture in that yearbook, if I can help it. Sometimes they've moved away before I can get one, but that, like their portrait would be there. I might not have like a candid shot, but I try to make sure there are candid photos of every student in the school. The students, I really didn't know this until like last year. The students really do keep these books and look at them. And I attended a birthday party. It was like in September, and one of the kids, I didn't even know the kid was going to be there. They didn't know I was going to be there. It was just a family like connection that was distant. And here comes the little boy, and he has his yearbook from the last year with him. You know, it was like, so that tells me that the yearbook does matter for the kids. Along with that, I do plan and host the art show. And that's important to me because we have students that aren't going to shine academically. They're not going to necessarily shine in the sports and athletics. And I want them to know that they still have work. That the art is still a good thing. You know, I want them to have something that says, recognizes that they're good at art. And so it's been really important to continue that. And that's been one of the harder ones for me to keep doing, because it does take a lot of time. And I've tried to streamline it as much as I can. I've done changes that make it easier. The other thing I do is create school flyers that go out. I do event collages, like on Canva, and post them to social media to keep the parents and families connected and engaged. And I know we're not talking about completely eliminating this now that, but some of the things, even at those reduced hours, might have to be dropped. And I hate that, because they'll either be lost or placed on other staff members who are already overloaded. So some of the things, daily management of the school library and student access to the books. I wish I had gotten it from Kimberly Hebner, but she had pulled me aside earlier this year and said on the LSIC parent survey that goes out that like people were very satisfied with the library, and that was like really made me happy, because there have been years where they haven't been as satisfied. But I think by Amy and Rachel open it every morning for the students. Classes come at least once a week, sometimes more than that, and then by having where they can put holds on books, that gives them much more access, because I'm only there 3 days a week generally. And teachers can do it as well, but it gives me like them, if they have their whole class and it's just them, they can't be helping find books and checking out books. You know, it's hard to do all of that as one person. So by me being able to be there when they're there, between the both of us, we can get them. And then sometimes maybe a kid has to stay a few minutes after and I help them find something. Selection, organization, maintenance of the book collection, read aloud instruction, and early literacy support. Lots of in-house accelerated reader support. Maybe I don't have time to do those AR tests. You know, like there's just things that individual students, reading support and guidance, and maintenance and troubleshooting of all the equipment. And I'm open to creative solutions. Last year I took on the role of substitute aide to supplement my income because I wanted to continue serving in the library, because I love the library. That is like my passion. I love books. I love helping the kids learn to read. And I'm willing to explore hybrid role where I work part-time as an aide, and you know, I don't know what all the options are available, but I'm open to other ways of making it work to continue to do and support the library and support the schools and the teachers. You know, the decision is not just about the position, it's about whether Franklin Elementary School continues to have dedicated literacy support system for students. And I guess I thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, you can let me know. I don't know if you, on this report, I'll just point out a couple of the pieces. The first one is April. You'll see the date. It's really tiny. April 23rd, 2019. We had the average age of our collection was 1995. I've been able to, through reading and then getting new books, I currently have our collection up to 2007, which still isn't great, but it's a lot better than it was. On the second page, you can see the age titles. And the age titles is something, they're going to be classic books that you always keep, and that's going to always affect that age. But there's books that, like when I first started taking and cleaning out the books, like there was an Apple IIgs computer programming book on the shelf. There was a Knot book that was before I was born, like published and been in the library since before I was born. So the age when I started was 64% age titles, with 7% being from 2014 or newer. And currently I have 51% age titles and 21% are 2021 or newer. The other things down here, there's diversity. Our collection has gone up from 29% of diverse titles to 32, with the average age was 1996. And diversity, you know, thoughts have changed a lot in the last several years. So our current age is 2006 on that. And the student well-being titles went from 34% to 43% from 1998 to 2007. So just some things that I've worked hard to make sure that our kids do have the appropriate books. They do have, you know, things that align with the curriculum.
And all of these things you just listed is from the media specialist part of your employment.
For the most part, if you look at the, I had a hard time like dividing it all up
I can
because it's
understand
all
that.
kind of bleeds together. I don't have a copy of the list, but there is a list there that kind of divides the responsibilities out a little more to where you can see. Because I have not touched everything in this. You know, I couldn't have told you everything I do. And I'm sure that list is missing things.
I'm sure, yeah.
Even after, you know, going through it and having some other people look over and say, okay, what am I forgetting? But I don't know how we kind of treated it as one. So I don't know what,
Sure.
the media
Understand.
specialist
That
is
makes-
more in that books.
Right.
But it kind of all bleeds over into other things. And I'm flexible. I do whatever anyone needs to help. You know, I do a lot more than I can even put into words. So.
The letters that we received on your behalf indicated that you did whatever you were asked to do. So, yeah.
I just don't want, you know, I know 2 hours doesn't sound like a lot, but that's things I'm gonna have to let go if I don't, you know, even I could literally probably work full-time every day and still not get everything done that needs to be done in the library and in the school that I do. So it's just, you know.
Sounds like it's a labor of love.
It is. The library is definitely, I love the library, I love the kids, I love the books. It's just all, you know, it just, I don't know. It's just something that I've been passionate about and have really found that, you know, I can make a difference and help, so.
Questions?
I don't have a question for Tanya. I do know she goes above and beyond, because I see it with my own kids. I know this is about the position per se, but and we cannot talk about, can we talk about expanding the hours at this meeting, or is it?
It can be on the meeting that we have renewed the contracts for next year,
Okay.
so.
First meeting in March.
Right.
I just have one question, Tanya, and I'm like JD, I read so many emails of how great a job you do. How do you get all this done in the time that we allow you?
I don't know.
And I'm so happy that we're going to be able to work it out, that you can continue doing this.
Yeah, it's just, I do what needs to be done. I don't know.
We appreciate you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And to everybody that came to support.
That's
thank
what I was
you.
gonna say, is thank you for everyone that came to be here behind me and support me.
Definitely,
'Cause it means a lot, and I know many have written letters, and that really does.
definitely.
It's been a long time I read that many emails.
I'm surprised Tony knows how to turn on a computer.
Yeah, it's helped me learn how to read emails.
We appreciate you all. Really do.
A couple of things on my end, just procedurally. Ms. Ebner, if there's anything you want to address the board on as it relates to your recommendation in closing, now would be your time, or any concerns you want to address as it relates to employee had. And I think I always like to say it's nice to have a professional employee and to have people at least be professional and not throwing stones at everyone. So even though I'm behind the computer and not there, it you know, it helps me sleep a little bit better at night, as well as the board, to see the community there, you know, in a professional way. Ms. Happer,
Yes.
anything you have to say. And then what I'll do is provide you all with guidance on your next step for the board meeting as at least I close out and move on to the next thing, Heather.
Okay, so I just want to say again, it's not about everything that she does. It's just that it needs to be housed. As she said, you can't tell which one's which. It needs to be housed under one contract. And Ms. Tritipo and I and our team here at the board office will look at the numbers and see what we can do for the contract as we prepare all the contracts for next year for the March meeting. So.
Well, as I understand it, that's the only personnel hearing for tonight, and what I would envision, Ms. Tritipo, Ms. Hebner, and the board members would be that the board's going to hear a number of other recommendations since this hearing's coming to a conclusion. And, you know, the board, as I understand it, is anticipated to make decisions tonight. And you know, there may be a recommendation that's presented to the board that maybe a few board members want to vote on separately, if that makes sense, and you all will have the ability to do that. If the board wants to go in executive session on a personnel matter to have some discussion with the superintendent, you can do that. Of course, you know you can't vote, but just want to make sure everyone's kind of understanding what your all's next steps are before I kind of leave the meeting, to make sure we're all clear and understand it. We do the right things for our employees from a due process standpoint, and you know, we don't fall afoul of any open meetings issues.
Questions? Thank you for attending and helping us tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all.
Thank you, Jason.
I'm going to close out. Next, Mr. Trippo.
Thanks.
So that concludes the personnel hearing part, and the next part is action on proposed RIFs and transfers.
The first one is Dolly Rexroad, extracurricular job exploration coordinator. Serena Harper, extracurricular instructional support mentor. Rebecca Hefner, extracurricular instructional support mentor. Amy Rexroad, extracurricular instructional support mentor. Tanya Worley, extracurricular contract media specialist. Leah Jones, extracurricular deafness services and case management. Aaliyah Wright, communities and schools site resource facilitator. Christine Lambert, extracurricular instructional support mentor. Allison Vinsel, extracurricular instructional support mentor. Courtney Kimball, extracurricular instructional support mentor, extracurricular autism services and case management, and MS exceptional case manager. Crystal Raymond, extracurricular instructional support mentor. Corey Wagner, extracurricular instructional support mentor.
And you have my recommendation to approve this list of RIFs as presented?
I should
Step
recuse
out.
myself.
Okay.
My sister.
Okay, yes.
Can we talk about, like, you probably can't
You,
talk.
you have to recuse yourself, or we can separate them.
Okay, yeah.
Do you want to separate them?
I just didn't know what they did. I just wanted to.
The mentors?
Yeah.
They're in-school mentors, so we still have mentoring.
Okay.
So, yeah, we still have, yeah, and also, just to clarify and just to be able to provide people with information, the extracurricular contracts that we have for special education services does not at all change the services that students with IEPs have, and so those will be fully provided. And it doesn't affect that at all. These are, for instance, like the MS Exceptional Case Manager, Policy 2419 and certification for special education teachers has changed, and now all special education teachers have that certification. So it's not needed as a separate service. Thankfully, more of our special education teachers have become autism certified, and so Ms. Courtney Kimball does not need to go to other schools to provide those services, and that's what we did. to be able to make sure that all students received the services they needed. And so these recommendations are based on need and not at all going to affect the services that students are entitled to by their IEP.
So we have the superintendent's recommendation to do the reductions in force as presented, as listed. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any discussions or are there any questions? Then all in favor of approving the reductions in force as presented, and I won't read them because we all have them available, please signify by saying aye.
All right.
And opposed, no. Motion passes. The reduction in force are approved.
So let's see Katie, in case she's coming back.
Transfers.
Transfers, we have one, Gwendolyn Colley to itinerant special education teacher at FES.
And you have my recommendation to approve this transfer as presented.
Our superintendent's recommending to approve the transfer as presented. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or any questions?
You explain that to me, transfer.
So special education, you want to go?
No, go ahead.
So special education teachers are all itinerant. We can move them as we need to. And so this is just giving her extra notice that her need is going to be greater at Franklin Elementary because of the numbers and the student services that are required. So,
So she's being transferred to
yeah,
Franklin.
so she'll be working at Franklin
Okay,
rather than
yeah.
at the middle high school. And that gives everyone plenty of notice and time to adjust and to work on schedules and IEPs and case managements and those items.
Any more questions? So then all in favor of approving the transfer of Gwendolyn Colley to itinerant at FES, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. Motion passes. The transfer is approved. Our next meeting will be held here at February 17th at 5:30, and I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no.